I'd like to give a warm welcome to all of you out there. As you know, my name is Renee and you're watching my Health Corner, and believe it or not, God really does care about your health. Last year, just about anywhere you look, sickness and disease were on the rise. In the United States, someone had a heart attack every 40 seconds, and 1.4 million Americans are diagnosed with diabetes every year. 1 in 2 people will get cancer in their lifetime as well. And it was estimated last year in 2022 that there would be 1.9 million new cancer cases and 609,360 cancer deaths. That's terrible. There's also a rise in the number of strokes per year, gastrointestinal problems, arthritic conditions, lung conditions, lupus, multiple sclerosis, and a host of many other diseases. The question is, why? Well, many people believe that God is to blame, but is that the case? I don't believe it is, because in 3 John 2 it says that God wants us to prosper and to be in health. So if he wants us to be in health and disease is more rampant than ever before, what's the problem? Well, there's laws known as natural laws, and when these laws are neglected in any way, the result is sickness and disease. And over a period of time of neglecting these laws, the diseases can get more severe, and even cancer and death can set in. Last time on here, I talked about having faith and trust in God. Well, today I'm going to be talking about supplementation and is it necessary? And this is going to be a 2-part video. So today is part 1. It's kind of short, but I couldn't do the 2 of them together because it would have been too long, I felt. So anyway, let's get started. As I said, in the Bible, it says that God wants us to prosper and be in health in 3 John 2. And Ministry of Healing, page 127, paragraph 2 says, it is essential to understand the principles involved in the treatment of the sick. And some very important points to keep in mind are, number 1, all who believe that the Lord has spoken through Sister White and has given her a message will be safe from the many delusions that will come in these last days. And that's 3 SM 83, paragraph 5. And then CH 370, paragraph 3 says, strange things have been done in the medical missionary work of late. And number 2, the world should be no criterion for us, 4T 35.3. And if God has any new light to communicate, he will let his chosen and beloved understand it without their going to have their minds enlightened by hearing those who are in darkness and error. EW 124, paragraph 2. And then number 3, Seventh-day Adventists are handling momentous truths on the subject of temperance. We should be advanced of all other people, 9T 158, paragraph 1. Number 4, you cannot teach health reform unless you present the most inexpensive method of living. The enemy must have no advantage in any line, MM 266, paragraph 3. And number 5, nature's process of healing is upbuilding and gradual. Ministry of Healing 127, paragraph 3. Many people want instant results because sometimes when you take a drug, it's quicker, but it's really not in the long run, because all the drug is doing is masking your symptom. When you go natural, you are getting to the root of the problem and taking care of the problem. And now it takes about 1 to 2 months on the average to see results, we're told in MH 235. So it's not a quick fix elixir. Some things might be quick. Sometimes people might see results in a week, but most people, it takes a couple months, sometimes longer and sometimes less. So don't get discouraged. Hang in there and keep going. Now, there's no need for us to go to the world to get our information on health. God has provided it all to us through the scriptures and the spirit of prophecy. If the poor people can't afford it, it's not God's true health message. Because many people tell you to go buy these expensive juicers and other appliances, and the poor people, they can't afford that, so they get discouraged and they think they're just going to die and there's no hope for them. Now, many will come to you with these quick fix elixirs and drinks and all this stuff that costs all this money, but like I said, then the poor feel there's no hope for them because they can't afford it. But God has a better way. With the program that I put people on, it only costs about $30 to $40 a month for their herbs and their food, which they have to buy anyway. And God's way has been presented to his last day church. That's us, Seventh-day Adventists. Now, there's many health gurus in the world who do have a lot of good information about health, just like there's many churches who have some truth. But it is God's church that has been given the last message to go to the whole world and has all the truth. And God's last day church has all the information we need regarding health, because God told the prophet all we need to know about health. And if we read our books and learn what God has to say, we too can have great health. So one thing we need to ask ourselves when teaching or sharing our health message is, where did I get this information from? Is it from God or is it from the world? If it's from God, you can find it in our books. And the main principle being addressed today is the topic of supplementation. Many people are taking vitamins and minerals, and they think they got to take all these bottles and pills and stuff every day. So we're going to talk about if it's necessary, and if so, when and how. Now, many people are being deluded thinking that supplementation must be given because there isn't enough minerals in our soil. Well, it is true that there are circumstances where supplementation may be necessary if you're sick or you have emergency. However, a lack of soil is not one of the reasons. If there's not enough nutrients in the soil, then nothing would grow and you and I would cease to exist. Remember, Adam and Eve were more than twice as tall as men on the earth today. At that height, their bodies required a certain amount of nutrients that today a 6-foot or 5-foot person could not handle. Man has declined in stature since the creation of time, and God cursed the earth for man's sake. See Genesis 3:17. Therefore, the nutrients in the earth have declined in direct proportion with the degradation of mankind. Patriarchs and Prophets tells us on page 115, his word controls the elements. And then we're told in Counsels on Diet and Foods, in grains, fruits, vegetables, and nuts are to be found all the food elements that we need. And then it says in Ministry of Healing, page 316, the grains with fruits, nuts, and vegetables contain all the nutritive properties necessary to make good blood. And that includes vitamin B12, brothers and sisters. Another delusion being taught is that our diet, if we are on a strict plant-based diet, we don't get B12. That is false. And even medical science is now showing otherwise. I'm going to post a link below showing that plant-based eaters do not require as much vitamin B as meat eaters do. And also our body makes vitamin B12 as we sleep. And also if we're eating our food in the right combinations, then we are getting B12 made. And one more thing, I think it's Dr. Neil Medley who teaches that vitamin B12 is contained in aloe vera. So anyway, another quote in Education 204 says, grains, fruits, nuts, and vegetables in proper combinations, like I said, contain all the elements of nutrition. They constitute the diet that best promotes both physical and mental strength. So if one is weak or fatigued or sore, chances are they're not getting enough of some food group. It might be nuts, it might be seeds, it might be their fruits, their vegetables, their nuts or grains. But we have to eat these things every day, and we have to have proper combinations. And also eating green veggies every day is very important, like kale or collards or asparagus or broccoli or spinach, something like that. We need those every day for magnesium. And then also Ministry of Healing 296 says grains, fruits, nuts, and vegetables constitute the diet chosen for us by our Creator. These foods prepared in as simple and natural a manner as possible are the most healthful and nourishing. They impart a strength, a power of endurance, and a vigor of intellect. Now, nuts have very high levels of magnesium phosphorus. They're also very rich in zinc, manganese, copper, and selenium. In fact, just 2 Brazil nuts a day has all the selenium in it that we need. Now, Brazil nuts are very expensive, but if you're only eating 2 a day, that's really cheap. to get your selenium. Now, science is realizing too that magnesium is actually more essential in the body than calcium. You can obtain all the calcium you need, but if you don't have the proper levels of magnesium, the calcium will not be able to do the functions it's responsible for. Magnesium is very necessary for formation of our bones and teeth and is involved in muscle relaxation. And you can find that in the book called Encyclopedia of Foods and Their Healing Power, Volume 1, page 56. And those volumes are written by Seventh-day Adventist doctors. Now 9T161 says a diet lacking in the proper elements of nutrition, which is the 4 food groups I mentioned above, brings reproach upon the cause of health reform. We are mortal and we must supply ourselves with food that will give proper nourishment to our body. 9T161, paragraph 3. Then Ministry of Healing, paragraph 1 and 2, page 295 says, our bodies are built up from the food we eat, and those foods should be chosen that best supply the elements needed for building up the body. In this choice, appetite is not a safeguard. So don't go by what you're hungry for or what you want. Go by what your body should have. Now, we're also told in Counsels on Diet and Foods, page 198, that the idea should never be given that it is of but little consequence what we eat. Our diet is very important, so we need to concentrate on it and plan for it and follow the guide from the Lord. Now, our bodies need food also that's going to encourage cellular growth and help rebuild our system. We're told in Education, page 204, in the study of hygiene, students should be taught the nutrient value of different foods. The effect of a concentrated and stimulating diet, also of foods deficient in the elements of nutrition, should be made plain. Tea, coffee, fine flour bread, pickles, coarse vegetables, candies, condiments, and pastries fail of supplying proper nutriment. Many a student is broken down as a result of using such foods. Many a puny child incapable of vigorous effort of mind or body is the victim of an impoverished diet. Grains, fruits, nuts, and vegetables in proper combination, here we go again, same thing, contain all the elements of nutrition, and when properly prepared, they constitute the diet that best promotes both physical and mental strength. Yes, we have to prepare our food properly. There is a wrong way to prepare certain foods. Now, medical science is now showing that coarse vegetables, which was mentioned in the quote I just read, they can steal iodine from your body if you eat them raw. So that causes hypothyroidism, and that can produce weakness. So I'm going to do a video on that someday about coarse vegetables and eating all these raw vegetables, these coarse vegetables, eating them raw, and how it is not healthy for us, and it is against our health message. Now, for those who worry about eating nuts because they have a high fat content, you need to keep the following in mind. The oil in nuts is composed of mono or polyunsaturated fatty acids, which are easily metabolized and do not tend to be deposited in the body. And that is in Foods and Their Healing Power, again, volume 1, page 55. So all you need to do is eat your nuts sparingly. A closed fistful of nuts, so you hold your nuts in your fist like this, and nothing should be showing. What is inside is what you eat, and that is enough to supply your body with what it needs. And if we were to crack the nuts ourselves, as God intended, chances are people wouldn't be overeating nuts, because that takes a lot of work. Also, you can read in Genesis about eating the fat of the land. And that's plant foods that contain natural fat, a good healthy fat. And that's Genesis 45:18. And some of those foods are avocados, olives, nuts, and seeds. Now, here's some Spirit of Prophecy quotes also regarding nuts. CD 363 says, care should be taken not to use too large a proportion of nuts. Well, we just talked about that. And then page 364, paragraph 4 says, I have been instructed that the nut foods are often used unwisely, that too large a proportion of nuts is used, and that some nuts are not as wholesome as others. Almonds are preferable to peanuts, but Peanuts in limited quantities may be used in connection with grains to make nourishing and digestible food. Now, I understand there are people who are allergic to peanuts and have severe allergies to them. Of course, they cannot eat them. But I don't have a problem with them, and many people I know do not have a problem with them. And we are counseled that we can eat them. So don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't eat peanuts. I had someone tell me that years ago, and I quit eating them because I thought, oh, I can't eat them. But then I saw this quote, and I'm like, yes, I can. So I do make my own peanut butter, and we do eat peanuts, but we don't eat them in large quantities, and we don't eat them often. Now, 3 years ago, Sister White says, a letter came to her saying that they couldn't eat the nut foods and their stomach couldn't take care of it. And she says, then there were several recipes presented before me. One, that there must be other ingredients combined with the nuts which would harmonize with them and not use such a large proportion of nuts. She says 1/10 to 1/6 part of nuts would be sufficient, varied according to combinations. We tried this and with success. That's CD 364, paragraph 5. So like I said, a good way to measure your nuts is a closed fistful with nothing seeping out the sides. Now, everybody has a different size fist, so you go by your own fistful, not someone else's, because men have larger hands than women do, and they need more. Now, we're told in Counsels on Diet and Foods as well, on page 364, that much time should be spent in learning how to prepare nut foods. And then 352, paragraph 2, same book says, study economy in everything, but do not withhold from the diet food which the system needs. And then with regard to the nut foods, there are many who cannot eat them, and that's CD 352. So if you can't eat them, you can't eat them. But you know, if you try and cook them properly and with other foods, you probably would have a better chance of being able to eat them. Because many people do very well eating nuts, and I'm one of them. I can eat nuts. I love nuts. But if there's someone who can't, they can use seeds instead. Flaxseed, chia seeds, sesame seeds, pumpkin seeds, and sunflower seeds. Those are all excellent, and they have most of the same minerals that the nuts have. So don't get discouraged if you cannot absolutely eat any nuts. Go to the seeds instead. Now, there are some supplements that can be very unhealthy, and I'm going to post a link about that below, and you can read about that as well. And then next week, I'm going to get into, or next time, I'm going to get into a lot more detail on supplements. So anyway, that's my time for today. I hope that what you heard on here was a blessing to you and your family. And until we meet again, may the good Lord bless and keep you. And remember, God loves you and He wants you to be in health. So eat that which is good. Bye-bye.